Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr. You can find the podcast at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram. You can find me at Paul Salazar Jr. And I'm live in studio here in Los Angeles with my co-host, Carla the dog. She's asleep. She's definitely asleep. She's being a good girl. Was a tough game for us here. We're having our first Behind the Paywall podcast here. This is technically the video podcast is going to be like late night with Space Cadet Sports. So this is a sad inaugural podcast of we'll call this Space Cadets After Dark, I guess. Space Cadet After Dark. Oh man, it's hard being creative when you're so sad. For those of you who are turning in here for the news, I'm sorry you're getting breaking news from me. However, the Astros lost tonight in Houston to the Texas Rangers, that team from Arlington, if you're a reader, 12-8. The Houston Astros are now 4-11. It was a game, and even for as lopsided as the, not quite as lopsided, as heavy-handed as the final score suggests, I guess, the Rangers got 12 runs off of 12 hits in this game, in a very frustrating turn of events. The Astros, we've definitely been complaining lately as a fan base about their runners in scoring position. Tonight, as a total, they were 5 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They had 11 hits in the entire game. However, they still somehow left 8 on base. So you're not, obviously we didn't win the game. That's not ideal. While I am a positive force here for the Astros and like to remain positive here for the fans and people that are long-term Astros fans and not people who are short-term Astros fans that are just here when we're doing good, I like to remain positive. However, we are looking at the offense as it performed tonight as in total, and it isn't quite as bad as some of the other offensive performances so far in this early season. So it's hard to take anything away from a positive from a loss to the team from Arlington. When we definitely were hoping to get some momentum back on our side here. Definitely exercise some of the demons the Astros have been possessed by recently with their hitting woes and their playing at home woes. But this isn't going to be that positive of an outcome for us. So while we are looking at some of the positive things, like we did do better overall getting hits, we did do better with the runners in scoring position. We did not get the most timely hitting when we still had 8 left on base. There is an alternative reality in which the Astros could have won this game, but simultaneously that would have meant they would have had to be pretty darn perfect. 5 for 9 with runners in scoring position is great. The L on the Astros this evening definitely is being worn heavier by the pitching staff. Going into this season, if you would have told me that the starting pitching was was going to be one of the biggest weaknesses of the Astros this young season so far, I would have been a little alarmed. But that's where we are right now. The middle relief, which on paper, it looked like was going to be our bigger issue going into the season, has performed admirably. There's definitely been some moments that we wish we would have had better middle relief, but when we're looking at the last 2 weeks in total, they're not wearing a lot of they're not wearing the or holding the biggest or carrying the biggest load. I guess I'm trying not to mix my metaphors here, but I'm just frustrated. Definitely, I think after a game like that and having a reaction podcast, I knew I was going to be a little more emotional than a normal podcast, but I'm definitely frustrated right now. I the starting pitching right now, we have the five starting pitchers on IL, our IL lineup. It looks really good. However, when we look at as Javier as our sixth starter, in that case that would put Brown and JP France as our seventh and eighth. These last couple games, if you look at it through that lens, we really haven't been getting a good amount of innings from our seventh and eighth starters. That doesn't seem too bad. But when you have five starters injured, I mean, you really are depending on those innings. And I think, in previous seasons, we have Hunter Brown here and we have JP France here, and we can kind of develop them as other starting pitching really carries the load and really lets them work on being back end of the rotation starters and long relievers, and developing them that way tends to put them in lower stakes scenarios. But they are starting the season, with us really having to depend on them. I mentioned JP France as an inning eater, and he can be. He pitched a lot of pitches tonight, but tonight he was not that inning eater. Tonight, JP France went for 4 innings, which is still kind of admirable based off of how much he really had to fight through the third and the fourth. He gave up 5 hits. He gave up 5 runs. I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm getting that number from. I guess that's wishful thinking. His line is he got 8 hits. He gave up 8 runs, 8 earned runs, 4 walks. He got 3 strikeouts and gave up a home run. That puts his ERA for this young season at a total of 8.22 and 15.1 innings pitched. So definitely based off of his last start and adding this poor start to his totals, his stats don't quite look as good as they did. However, we are looking at sample size here. We are looking at stuff. This was a really tough outing. There were a lot of really bad breaks. It felt like a lot of bad luck. And honestly, Angel Hernandez was out there today, and I mentioned the frustration in last game of what it's like when an umpire is not calling a consistent strike zone. This strike zone was nuts. I don't know how this man truly can still have a job in Major League Baseball when he is constantly performing the way he does on television. It is very obvious, it's very glaring that not only is his strike zone, wrong most of the time, it's also very inconsistent. I used to for those of you who are new to Paul Salazar as a person and as an entertainer, something I go to a lot is my old jobs. I've had a million jobs as a guy who has worked in the entertainment industry for multiple decades and has had to carry himself when he's not a very famous person or known commodity. I've done all the odd jobs. I was a referee. I have been an umpire. I honestly did not call fast pitch baseball, thankfully, for people that play baseball. But a lot. I have had to call strike zones before. I have had to do officiating where you have to rely on your eyes and your senses, and usually your boss is watching you and can tell when you're doing a bad job. and when the layman and people just watching baseball on TV can tell you're doing a bad job, and you can consistently go out there and do the job that poorly, I'm just shocked as to how the man still has a job. Carla got really frustrated. She has sat down next to me. She's sighing heavily, and she is kicking me. She is very frustrated, just as much as I am. She's an empathetic dog, picking up on this energy. But yeah, I think while JP France didn't have his best stuff, he also they were getting a lot of contact on him. They were putting balls where they needed to be to drop to get hits, putting them between players. You do have to give the hitters credit for that. But also, he was struggling with his command and struggling to find the zone because the umpire wasn't giving him that consistent of one. I mean, there was one strikeout there. You take the good with the bad, obviously. He did not help JP France be consistent, but however, there were times that, he did help JP France out with a strike here or there. But also, I'm not trying to say that we benefited a lot because on the flip side, the Astros hitters definitely had fits with Angel Hernandez tonight. So, that's never one of the main excuses I have for a win or a loss. However, when the officiating has been as bad as it was tonight and the previous night, it's hard not to call it out. It's hard not to just say the reality of the situation is it's hard to find the strike zone as a pitcher or try to know where your limits are as a hitter when the umpire is not giving you consistency. So yeah, it definitely was tough, for JP France. At one point, at some point, I watched the local broadcast in Houston, Texas. Even though I am out here in Los Angeles, I do want to see what the fans are seeing there. And at one point, they put some stats up there for the last 5 starts for the Houston Astros here, and I kind of saved that because I wanted to give it to you folks because tonight JP France, he got 4 innings and 98 pitches with 8 runs allowed. However, with our last 5 starts, none of our starting pitchers have pitched into the sixth. Have pitched 6 innings, I should say. Christian Javier did pitch into the 6th inning. He ended up going 5.1 in his start with 93 pitches and 3 runs allowed at Kansas City. And he obviously, as our ace for the moment, he has the best results. However, that is a good result. However, it didn't lead to us winning, and it definitely isn't what you're looking for your staff when you're looking for innings. And it would be a little easier, if the other pitchers in our rotation have pitched 4 innings, even like France did. However, the next best one is Spencer Arrighetti. Spencer Arrighetti's pitched 3 innings. Hunter Brown, last night, only pitched 2/3 of an inning. And of course, sadly, not to remind Astros fans of this, but on Monday at Texas, Blair Hindley only pitched 1/3 of an inning. So these numbers are very crooked, and over the last 5 starts, the Astros starters have a 21.29 ERA. Oh my goodness! Yes, I know. Carla's walking out, and I don't blame you, Carla. Our starting pitching this last rotation did not give us what we were expecting from them. However, when we're looking at this, if Hunter Brown and JP France are 7 and 8 pitchers, then Spencer Arrighetti is our number 10, giving Ronald Blanco, we're giving Ronald Blanco 9 there, and Blair Hindley, that's putting them very, very high up on the list at 11. However, we know if we're actually looking at the AAA rotation, he probably would be a little further down a couple notches just due to the fact that he got brought up because he was a spot start and was going to start that day. So this is not the results we're looking for, obviously. However, this is not the results that I think that we are projecting for the Astros to have going forward, even though Hunter Brown and JP France and Spencer Arrighetti here, Blair Hindley is obviously going to spend more time in Sugarland this season, even though these other pitchers, haven't necessarily been lights out, nor are they expected to be, having a Cy Young year this season. They are not projected to be as poor as they did these last couple outings. something they mentioned in the broadcast. I believe it was Jeff Bagwell who was in the booth tonight with TK. He was saying that sometimes not only is hitting contagious, but so is starting pitching. And if starting pitching starts to turn sour a bit, there could be some bad outings from the starters, and they just kind of need to, as a group, turn it around. I have a lot of faith and confidence in even this kind of, like I was, lovingly saying, kind of like the B team here. I don't even like the B team. I'm going to call them like the Suicide Squad or something. I don't know. Because, I'm not trying to denigrate them. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying that these are not the starters that the Astros brass and the organization were hoping to depend on for this many innings. Even if it was going to be, some spotty starts in the beginning of the season, I don't think they expected these guys, particularly Hindley and Arrighetti, to be depended on, and they just had to be depended on this time through the rotation. We're hoping JV comes back. We're hoping this Framber injury is not that bad, and he comes back quickly as well. And for the timeline for Urquidy and Luis Garcia to remain on schedule. Lance McCullers Jr., now that guy's my boy. He's burying me the H guy. He will forever be one of my favorite Astros. However, when we're looking at his injury realistically, it has been pushed back a couple times, his timeline for coming back, and he has spent a lot of time on the IL lately. So, while I am optimistic that he comes back, I know realistically there may be a chance that his injury his recovery is pushed back a little further. We're still rooting for him. We still want him back. Whether McCullers at this point, when we have 15 starting pitchers by the time he comes back, whether he's in the bullpen or he is starting, that doesn't matter to me. At this point, we could take the arms. At this point, Dana Brown is calling up guys to pitch a couple innings and sending them back down to AAA just because we could use a fresh arm or two. And speaking of calling somebody up from AAA and needing a fresh arm or two, after JP France pitched 4 innings there, we have a veteran reliever, Joel Kuhnel, come in. He spent a little bit of time with the Astros last season. He came in to pitch for the Astros after JP France. I was really worried Joel Kuhnel would even be called in for the 4th inning because JP France was struggling. And honestly, the crowd was growing testy there at Minute Maid. People were very frustrated by the fact that Joe Espada, manager Joe Espada, was keeping France in quite as long as he had. But when you look at how much the bullpen has pitched, you're kind of out of options. We're at this point in our season right now where we had to put some sacrificial lambs out there, and it is not fun. It is not ideal. It is not the Astros baseball we want to see. It is not the games we want to see when we're playing our rivals. However, the other options are to panic, to bring in some free agent who might not be ready to, I don't quite know what the other options are besides to just trust your organization and trust that the people that you have will be ready to go. They were not quite ready to go this week, just honestly. We struggled this week as a pitching staff, or I should say the Astros struggled. I identify with the team so much and I'm so empathetic that I am taking their struggles to be my struggles. I'm not trying to do that the fan base thing where I always say we. I know I do it a lot. It's an empathetic thing. I'm not trying to take credit for their success. I guess I'll take credit for their failures, but I'm not trying to take credit for their success. That aside, Kuhnel came in. He was able to pitch 2 innings. But he definitely looked like he pitched way too many pitches. And once again, it would have been nice to have Martinez come in or Belak come in and pitch some more this game, but those guys need some rest. Frankly, even the Wall Street Journal is putting out articles about how many pitchers are getting injured this season. Do we want those guys that we've had to rely on so heavily to be injured just because we're having to overwork them because we have some pride on the line? The reality of the situation is that France and Kunal just would have to wear it and pitch as much as they could. We then got Belak in the game. I guess, I will go over Kunal's line. He gave up 4 hits. He gave up 4 runs. He gave up 4 earned runs with a strikeout. So that's tough. Those numbers are tough because obviously, it was a closer game than you give a lopsided game like this game that starts off so lopsided credit for. So you're looking at it and you're like, okay, maybe if Kunal didn't give up 4 runs, we could have been in it, or maybe if we pulled France earlier, we could have been in it. Even if we would have pulled those guys earlier, I'm not sure where we're getting these outs from, unless we're asking Presley or Hader to go extra innings, or unless we're expecting Gray Kessinger to come out of the dugout again and getting another 1, 2, 3 inning. Espada and Miller, pitching coach Josh Miller, are looking at this and trying to figure out where they're getting outs, and it's looking tougher and tougher, and you're not trying to exhaust your guys. So it's tough. I understand the what-ifs that can be played about this game if Espada would have stopped the bleeding earlier, or if Espada would have if Martinez would have had superhuman strength and been able to come in for an inning. I understand the what-ifs, but really, this early in the season, you're looking to protect your pitchers, you're looking to protect your staff from injury, especially when you have this many injuries. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that, to have the confidence to do that, to at home when fans are getting angry. It's hard to really, but I know people are going to be critical. However, I think it's good managing this early in the season. Something that TK said during the game on the broadcast is if you put the baseball season and you kind of mapped it over a football season, this point in the season would be like if the Texans lost their first game and were down at the half in their second game. It would be way too early in the season for people to realistically panic about their playoff odds. Yes, it would not have started the way we wanted to. Yes, it's looking bleak because we're going to have to turn things around. However, we're not out of it quite yet. We're taking some on the chin. We're playing some good teams. The teams that we have played, no one was expecting them to be very easy wins. This team from Arlington, they're not just going to roll over. They're not just going to give us easy outs or easy at bats. We have to keep fighting. And I think the Astros did fight in this game. Obviously, France and Kunal didn't start off well, but then we got to Belak, who came in and gave us another strong inning. He got out of the inning. Belak did well. Belak, he looked tired, though. I felt bad for the guy. Then, after that, the Astros got a little feisty. Unfortunately, I'm having to look it up here because... honestly, yeah, it's just been a lot, but sorry, I'm looking for the moment in the 6th or 7th inning here, but yeah, so in the 7th inning, we get the Astros get a little fire and get a little testy because Alvarez gets hit. They threw him up and in. With 3 balls and no outs. I believe Clark was the pitcher for Texas at this time, or for Arlington at this time. He definitely wasn't all of Texas' pitcher, but Clark throws up and in at Alvarez on a 3-0 count in a ridiculous game. Where they're up so much, it just seemed, I don't know how testy he was being, or how I'm not trying to claim that they were actually trying to hit Alvarez. However, I'm just saying it's bad form. I just don't think it is the time to be pitching people up and in that situation, especially if you're lacking a little bit control and can hit him. He got hit for the second time. I know how it goes. Look, I'm not trying to be too ridiculous. Garcia also got hit this game. Sometimes people get hit. France was throwing up and in. Sometimes you throw up and in, you're trying to throw competitive pitches and one gets away. But I'm just saying, at that point of the game, it just seemed a little ridiculous that he was throwing up and in. Maybe he was trying to retaliate from Garcia being thrown up and in. But I mean, France was struggling. France was not. I don't think he was trying to hit somebody in that moment. So I understand there's bad blood, but it was very frustrating to see that as an Astros fan, because, I mean, we want Alvarez to be healthy. Obviously, there's been a lot of injuries. Alvarez got tagged with another pitch earlier, kind of in the back of the leg that he kind of limped for a while, and I got nervous. So we don't want to see people get hit, at least not on this podcast. But it was nice to see Tucker picked up Alvarez after that. He hit a home run after Alvarez got hit, and kind of stared at Clark. It was a great moment. He had a great bat flip. There was no fighting. It was just more like, we don't appreciate that kind of behavior around here. And obviously we didn't win the game, but we needed a moral victory at that point of the game. We needed some pride. And so I'm not saying it's a good thing Alvarez got hit, but it was a good thing to see Tucker get fired up and kind of just say, we don't take kindly to that. Then after that, Mauricio Dubon singled, and John Singleton scored. John Singleton had a pretty decent game. We'll get to his stat line in a bit. Jeremy Pena got to second, and then in that inning as well, Jake Myers doubled, and we went up 8-12. So after the Alvarez hit, kind of the team kind of got a little feisty, trying to put some points on the board. Actually got it close for a little bit. It just, however, was not enough offense to get the job done. There was still some game left to play. Obviously, there left in the seventh. Pardon me. But overall, we just did not have the offense to get it done. But I mean, to win this game at this point in the game. However, arguably, we just didn't have the pitching for this game. If we would have started off decently, we could have won this game based off of the offensive output we had. But you just never know, So then we had Presley in the eighth. Presley looked sharp. He got a strikeout. He did give up a walk. There was a little, I guess sharp comparatively for how Presley has been looking this season. I'm hoping for a little bit of a bounce back. He looked good. Then Hader came in and closed out the ninth. I feel like there was, the Astros were just feeling a little spicy. Presley and Hader needed to get some work in. After those Alvarez hits, they're playing for some pride. So, I don't mind Espada putting Presley and Hader in there and giving the offense a little bit of momentum, hopefully, to go out there and get this game back. It just didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. We didn't figure it out. When we're looking at, I mentioned Singleton earlier. Singleton kind of salvaged his game there. He was 1 for 4. He got 1 run. He did get a walk, but he did get 2 strikeouts. One of those strikeouts I really feel was done by Angel Hernandez and not the Texas Rangers pitching staff. However, we do need to see Singleton strike out less if he is going to be spelling Abreu in these spot starts for Abreu's health and for Abreu to get back on track, or whatever the case may be. Other highlights, Pena was 2 for 5. 3 for 5. He got 2 runs, and he did strike out 1. So Pena is looking really hot at the beginning of the season here. Jose Altuve did get a walk, so his streak of getting on base does continue. However, he didn't get a hit yet in this young season. He's hitting .345 with a 1.036 OPS. So, Altuve's looking good, and when we're looking at Alvarez, he didn't have the strongest game. He also didn't get pitched very well. He's still looking good at the beginning of the season with 310 average and 963 OPS. And obviously, with Tucker had a 2 home run game. He had a 3 RBI game. He did pick up a walk, so he was 2 for 4. His season averages are his average batting average is 258, and his OPS of 817. So it's like when we're looking forward here, when we're looking ahead, it's like this offense really is starting to get a little bit of momentum. I'm not going to say this offense is rolling. We need to win some games. We need to get some better timely hits. Runners with scoring position. You kind of, the quote, just take a look at the back of the bubblegum card for these guys. They will figure out a way. I'm not too worried about the middle of our lineup. Long term, and it looks like the bottom of our lineup, guys. We're looking at Pena, we're looking at Dubon, we're looking at Myers. They're really fighting in these games. McCormick didn't play this game. He was out due to soreness. Bregman didn't play this game. He was out due to illness. Kessinger started. Kessinger failed to get a hit in this game and did get 2 strikeouts. He definitely has not had as much consistency this season because he just really hasn't. I believe this is his first start even, so Greg Kessinger is the kind of utility guy that's going to be coming off the bench behind Dubon. So, we're not looking to him for too much consistency. I don't think maybe he was even scheduled to start this game. It might have been a kind of a last minute sub. But when we're looking at who's normally going to be at the bottom of our lineup, even Victor Cantini, switch hitting catcher, it looks like these guys are figuring it out. Now, the biggest question mark, like we mentioned in our last podcast, is definitely first base. Jose Abreu still seems to be shaking some of the rust off, and we're wondering if he'll be able to put it together quicker than he did in previous seasons. Not that I doubt Jose Abreu. I just think that this season's looking tight, and the start was really rough, and the fan base is growing feisty. Espada has shown that he is okay subbing John Singleton in for Jose Abreu. So Jose Abreu is on a much shorter, has a much shorter leash this season. I wish I had a better metaphor for that, but he's not going to be able to go out there and do a lot of trial and error as much as that they're going to figure things out in the batting cage this season for him. And John Singleton, he is looking to, really revitalize his career. There are a lot of doubters for him right now. He looks to have the good eye that we've known him to have. He looks to have the big swing potential that we've known him to have. He has not been able to put the ball on the bat and get those big hits to get that slugging percentage up to where he wants it to be so far this season. I have confidence in John Singleton being a good backup first baseman at the professional level. He has the glove, he has the ability, he has a good eye, he has potential for slugging. However, the Astros don't have a lot of time to figure out all of their offense right now. Right now, it's kind of a fight to get the best lineup out there. So, I'm not saying Joey Loperfido is going to be called up tomorrow. I'm not saying they're going to look at free agent first base options. I just think Dana Brown is probably on the phone doing what he can to see what is out there as a potential first base option. At least that's probably what I would be up to. I don't know if there are any options that is not going to eat up our farm system. Really, that's the problem right now. We do not have a farm system in which we can give away a lot of prospects. So I don't think we're really looking to give too much away. We're looking at kind of bargain deals. We're looking at things that will not cost too much. So we'll see. I'm really not confident that there's going to be some kind of trade. I'm just saying that there's probably some kind of Dana Brown looking into any kind of options right now, at first base to see if there's some kind of temporary salve. I'm not saying Abreu's going to be gone. I don't think you can trade Abreu. I don't think they want Abreu gone. They want to build the guy's confidence up. They just can't do it with in-game at-bats right now, the way the offense is playing. So we're looking at that, going forward. And yeah, I don't know. It is not time to panic right now about this offense. What we need to do is get the hits. What the Astros need to do, I should say, what the fans want to see, and what the Astros need to do is get hits, get those timely hits in timely places. They're definitely looking like they're turning it around. And frankly, I think it would be great to see Ronel Blanco go out there tomorrow and pitch 6 to 7 innings, get another quality start. I mean, hey, why not get another no-hitter? That would be fantastic for Ronel Blanco. Ronel Blanco, it doesn't look like it's that much of an anomaly. Dana Brown was high on Ronel Blanco, calling him, a great pitcher and the potential to be a starting pitcher, and has great stuff as of, even last season. And, even the Major League Baseball power rankings have him ranked in the top 10 right now. I think he's a good pitcher. Baseball can be, there can be a lot of waves in baseball. It's a very emotional sport. So we're just hoping he stays riding high on this confidence and pitches the way that he's been pitching recently for us, because we need that outcome for tomorrow's game. And let's hope that the Houston Astros can keep up their hitting that they did in this game, only just find a couple more big hits and find those clutch hits when we need them, not just throughout the game to make the stats look good. Hopefully in those big moments, they can find it within themselves to get those big hits against the Texas pitching staff. It isn't time to panic. Let's all just take a breath and all is calm down. You were entitled to feel frustrated. You're entitled to be emotional, of course, about this game. I just don't think this is time to panic. Now, is it time for concern? Yeah. Could concern turn to worry? Of course. I'm not trying to be too ridiculous. It's time for concern. No, of course, folks. I think it's tough when you're watching a game like this, and some of the best pitches in the game are from TK and Jeff Bagwell pitching ATB commercial ideas. It's like, it's definitely tough when you see that. And it's tough when you have to depend on Ronel Blanco, and Ronel Blanco is a guy that you were hoping to develop this season and not have to depend on to be your stopper. However, the Astros are that team. They have been that team in the past. They have figured out ways to win. Now, does this bad start mean that we're out of the playoffs? Not necessarily. No, I don't think so. Does this bad start mean that we might have to change our projected win total this season? Yeah, absolutely, of course. But even if, we win, even if we have a great season, that's 50, 60 losses, So just count tonight's loss as one of those 50 or 60 losses. You know what I mean? Like, don't panic. Just take them as they come. Take it one day at a time, because baseball is a long sport. And this team really can turn it around. This team is not different just because they have a new manager, just because Joe Espada is doing different things and listening to the analytics more. Just last season, people were complaining that Dusty Baker wouldn't do anything about the analytics and manage in the old school way. So, sometimes the grass is always greener, Now is not the time for panic. Sure, we should be concerned. It isn't an ideal start. Yes, maybe we should focus more on starting pitching, but realistically, who are you going to get? Who are you going to get for the price that we could afford? You know what I mean? Like, Blake Snell was kind of asking for way too much, and when you look at him, he's had a slow start too. So, it's having the confidence to depend on your system was a bold move. So far, it hasn't exactly turned out the way GM Dana Brown has wanted it to turn out. And poor manager Joe Espada is sitting there having to keep putting out these sacrificial lambs because he doesn't have much organizational depth in his pitching. I don't think this is him doing it just because he wants to let these guys ride because he really believes that something could turn around. I think these last couple outings he's had to let guys go out there and pitch as much as they could because they just don't have that many innings to give away in the bullpen. So, we're really hoping they turn that around for their sake, and we're going to stay optimistic. We're looking forward to this next game in Houston against the team from Arlington. Let's hope that Ronel Blanco goes out there. Ronel, the blank man Blanco, goes out there and blanks him again, folks. We got to have confidence that this team could turn it around. It is way too early to be hitting that panic button. Folks, let's stay positive. I've been your host, Paul Salazar Jr. You can find the podcast at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram. You can find me if you want to give me a message on all social media. If you're on another platform, you can find me at Paul Salazar Jr. You can find our co-host at good.dog.carla on Instagram. And folks, stay positive, keep your head up. It's a long season, and vamos Astros.